Hello, and welcome to the Legal Marketing Brief, the series where we showcase attorneys from across the country and learn about the strategies they use to market successful practices. I'm John Simpson, CEO of Convert Marketing. Today, we're sitting down with Paul Katz of the Simon & Katz Law Firm. Based in Kansas City, Paul runs a diverse practice that includes personal injury, workers' comp, criminal defense, and DUI DWI. We hope you enjoy hearing how Paul has built a firm that's thrived for decades and successfully served thousands of clients. And so, Paul, let's start right at the top. What made you become an attorney?
I wanted to help people, and I'd been traveling through Europe at the time when I was 19 years old because I worked for a travel agency while I was going through college and law school. And I got to see pretty much most of the world during the summers and winters, and I would take tours out to different areas, and we would take a group of people, to these different spots. We'd go to Canada, we went to Arvida, Chicoutimi, Tadoussac, all of the real hot spots of Canada. We got to see all of Canada, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the United States. Not much in South America, though. So that's my intention, is to visit South America as my life progressed.
So as you were going through that process of working for the travel agent, how did that make you say, I'm going to become a lawyer?
Well, there's nothing worse than being an old travel agent because they've got so many stories you have to listen to that you'll go crazy. So it's dawned on me that I didn't want to do this after my law school graduation, so I should become a lawyer. And I did become a lawyer, and I worked with LEAA, Law Enforcement Aid and Assistance Council, and wrote a book for them, Street Crime in America. And I also participated in legal activities such as moot court and so forth. And I really did have a great appreciation for the law. And back then, in my day, it was the era of protests and violence in the street. And I have a hunch we're coming back to those periods of time now.
Oh, I hope not, but you might be right. So there's definitely the defense thread seems to be pretty consistent through your career. Do you want to talk a little about the scope of the firm today? Because I know you do many things.
Yes. We do personal injury, workers' comp, traffic tickets, criminal law, and just about a million different things. But those are the main groups that we deal with.
Got it. And I know you do a lot in particular around criminal law and personal injury as well. How did you come to those two practice groups, and where do you find the overlap between the two? How do those connect?
Well, they connect in many ways because a criminal case could become a personal injury case as well for wrongful convictions or for other things that are involved in the machinations of trial.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you jokingly said that old travel agents have a lot of stories. Well, in our experience here, our criminal defense lawyers tend to have the most and best stories out of the 15 or 16 practice groups that we represent here.
That's why I became a lawyer, to get the good stories. I didn't want the travel agent stories anymore. I wanted the good stories.
Yes, I'm sure. Now, is there a certain type of offense that you tend to focus on, or is it really all the above?
It's all of the above, but I have been noticing a sudden uptick in DWIs. It may be because of the political climate, though, creating everybody drinking again. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it certainly seems to be a great addition of DWI cases.
And I'm curious, that being a trend, is that at all related to, certainly there's alcohol, but at least here in Illinois, there's other substances now that have become legal that people are using, cannabis related.
Yeah, Missouri has a marijuana recreational law that they've passed. So there's a lot of marijuana involved. And that's a problem for Missouri residents because they think that marijuana is legal, which it is, but it's not legal to drive a vehicle while you're on marijuana. And that message has not been sent to the people that you can't drive while intoxicated. And that's what they review. They say that's what inebriated, intoxicated is driving under the influence of any drugs. So even if you had prescription drugs by your doctor and you were driving and you shouldn't be driving, then you could also get a ticket for driving while under the influence.
Well, I'm curious on the other side of the fence, on the personal injury side, are you seeing any trends that are occurring there, over the last, couple of years that perhaps weren't in play, 5 years ago?
Well, I mean, there's a great deal more of pitching to the audience from different lawyers that have, news sites, television ads, bus stop ads, all of that. They're all trying to get business. But we're here basically because we've been here for over 50 years. So we have an established base that we deal with, and we love having more clients.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about clients. So, I know you take a lot of pride in how you serve your clients. How would your clients describe you at your best?
At my best, I'm a dynamo. I have a lot of, what would you say, it's the opposite of je ne sais quoi. It is completely out of left field. My thinking is definitely different than the average person. So I come to different conclusions than you would from a regular viewing of the material.
Would you say that's a contrarian perspective?
I would. I'd say it's a contrarian perspective that we're all going to eventually have to adopt with this system that we have in place now.
Indeed, indeed. Well, is there a particular outcome, and obviously anonymous and so forth, but a particular client outcome that you point back to over your 50-year career that you're like, that's one that I'm really particularly proud of and I think represents our practice the most?
Well, I mean, I've gotten murder cases dismissed, so I would think that would be my highlight. And I've had a lot of cases that have caused me to think twice about what the law should be as what it is, as opposed to what it is.
I can only imagine, or I can't imagine, I should say, the stress of representing somebody in something as high stakes as a murder case. That's got to be all-consuming.
Well, you're never through with them. They go on forever because if you get a conviction, then you have to go take the appeal, and then you got to take the appeal from there, and then you got to go fight if they're going to get the death penalty or not, and so forth. And then you got the Supreme Court challenge, so you're probably talking about 10 years of your life.
Wow. So you're selective in terms of who you're going to get as a client there and what the case looks like.
Exactly.
Interesting. Well, let's switch gears. We talked about clients. We talked about your background a little bit. Let's talk about the evolution of your practice itself. So can you walk us through the evolution of your practice and maybe some of the pivotal moments in your mind of how you built your practice?
I started out, like I say, working for LEAA and wrote that book. And then I went into the public defender's office, and I was there for like a year and a half. And then I went into practice with a very well-known criminal and defense attorney who happened to be representing the mafia here in Kansas City. So I thought this would be a good place to start. And 50 years later, I'm still here. So it must have been not too bad.
Yeah, wow. That had to be fascinating. I'm sure if we ever meet in person, not on video, I'd love to hear some of the stories because I'm sure there's plenty. But okay, and when did you start marketing the firm, and what were the first types of marketing efforts that you undertook?
Well, I did have a television ad at one point, and I had my whole family come in and talk about, case law. And I think it's still available. And then I think the highlight of my career was going on the Today Show when I represented a client who bought a vehicle from the government at an auction sale 3 years after they had stopped that vehicle and had gotten like $80,000 out of the car. The government took $80,000 from the car when they initially stopped it and took it into its custody. 3 years later, the same Drug Enforcement Administration guy who picked up the car originally 3 years ago came to take away my client's car because it wouldn't start one day. So they took it to a mechanic, And the mechanic was under federal investigation anyway. So he contacted DEA to tell them why the car wouldn't start, because there was $70,000 in the gas tank of the car, and it prevented the gas from going to the components to motivate it. So that's the reason it just died there. So the government, the same agent that originally took it 3 years ago, went back and took the car again away from them, even though they had purchased the car from the government auction sale, even though it had been there 3 years and they never found the money then. So our claim was that my clients bought the car and everything in it at the time of the sale. The government's position is, it's our money, it's drug money, too bad. So at that point, we filed a lawsuit and we won. So that's the good news.
So they were able to keep the car and the 70 grand.
No, they couldn't keep the 70 grand. We had to split the 70 grand with the government.
Still, it's a pretty good deal.
It's better than nothing.
That is great. That's probably one of the best stories I've heard on one of these before. So I'm curious. I used to watch the Today Show all the time. Who interviewed you?
It was the Dan Abrams, I think. It was Dan.
Yeah,
Abrams.
The legal analyst.
Yeah,
sure.
I think he was the one that interviewed me.
Oh, that's fascinating. Did you get that clip and put it up on your website?
Yeah, I think it's there, but it may not be. I don't know.
Oh, that's great. That's a really good story. Well, you talked a little bit about your family as a part of that, discussing case law and an advertisement for you, Paul. So I'm going to feather into another area, which is, one of the things that we always ask on these interviews is how our lawyer clients define success. And, success can be many things, right? It could be doing a type of law. It could be money. It could be bigger firm. It could be, I want to take Thursdays off to ski, which one of our clients said. I'm sort of curious, here you are, you have this practice for 50 years. What's your definition of success?
It's being motivated to come to the office every day and be enchanted by the new cases and new issues that are involved. And when you research these issues, you have a knowledge that you didn't have before. And that's what life is all about, is learning new things. And when you stop that, then you're dead.
Yeah, that's great. Intellectual curiosity, right, makes the world go round, and then certainly seems to make your practice continue to hum along.
Exactly.
Just a couple of questions here for you about marketing-related stuff. So how have you seen the legal marketing landscape change over the course of your career?
Well, there's a lot more TV ads than ever before, and a lot more ads. When I first started practicing, we couldn't even have ads. Lawyers weren't allowed to have ads. So it's been 100% change in the way that lawyers do business.
So if you were talking to a young Paul Katz coming out of the public defender's office, what would you say to do and not to do to build their practice? What would the advice you'd give them?
The advice is to stay in the public view as much as you can by making sure that your clients are treated properly by the law, by the prosecutors, by justice and the juries.
Now, anything to avoid?
Avoid alcohol, drugs, and a bad life.
Yeah, and especially alcohol and drugs and driving.
Exactly.
For sure. I understand that you do have an unofficial tagline for your business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When your back's against the wall, call Paul.